I will now call the February 3rd, 2014 Blue Springs City Council meeting order. If you would, stand with me, observe a moment of silence, and then I will lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. I want to welcome you in attendance as well as those that are watching on cable TV 7 to tonight's City Council meeting. The next item is the consent agenda. Are there items that need to be pulled? Seeing none, I would accept a motion for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Clavell.
Aye.
Councilman Lettison.
Aye.
Councilman Fowler.
Aye.
Councilman Carter.
Aye.
Councilman Edwards.
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper. Aye. Carried unanimously.
Next, we have a presentation by the Public Safety Citizens Advisory Board. And Chairman Tom Eckert, are you, and you have some members present, you might want to introduce them as well.
Yes, sir, I will do that. Well, but thank you, Mr. Mayor and council and staff, for inviting us here this year to kind of give you a summary of what we've been up to for the past year. And for those who may not be familiar with the board, I just want to kind of explain how its makeup and introduce the members, the one member that is here this evening. But anyway, we do have two representatives from each district. From District 1, we had Emil Spears, who was vice chairman, and Lee Miller, who was in the audience this evening. From District 2, Chuck Zuvers and Melody Chrisman. From District 3, Janet Black, who serves as our scribe and note taker. And without her, really wouldn't be able to do this, because it's her notes I rely on as we go back through the year to recap of what we did. And of course, myself, also from District 3. Each year we do have a student representative, and they are seniors from one of our high schools, and we alternate. And of course, last year we started off with a student from Blue Springs South, Logan Smith, and he was with us up until graduation. And in October, Meg Kistner from Blue Springs High School joined us. And we enjoy having the younger people on and the perspective that they bring to some of the things that we do. So always happy to have them. Of course, we have a representative from the City Council, which is Kent Edmondson. And of course, we really enjoy working with Kent and value his input and advice. And from the police department, of course, Chief McCoy. We have a couple of other people that have become kind of regulars, and Major Munz is generally attends, and Sergeant Stacy Edwards, from the police department. It's always good to have them there and get the value their input as well. But talking a little bit just about what our responsibilities and authorities are, and as we go along. One of them is to review and propose changes in parking and traffic ordinances. This year, in 2013, the past year, we didn't actually have any of those issues, which was a first. We also review and propose changes in animal control ordinances. And believe it or not, last year we actually didn't have any of them either. The previous year we had chickens and pigs and dogs and cats and a little bit of everything else. But last year, surprisingly, we had none of those issues. But we've already got one to start this year off, so we're back on track. The ordinance that established the board also requires us to conduct an annual public community safety forum, which we did on November the 12th. We had some issues over at City Hall with roof repairs, and our friends at CJC were kind enough to take us in for a couple of months. And we had one of our meetings over at their station number 3 and their nice boardroom over there, and our annual forum actually in the auditorium at the training center, their training center out on 40 Highway. We had a good group of people this year, and it probably been, we think even larger had it been here, and was a little bit maybe more convenient for folks to get to, but I still believe we probably had 30 or 40 people that showed up. We had, and I think the big draw was, of course, the presentation by Trainer Architects and the Burns and McDonald people on the building project. Lots of people interested in what's going on there. And again, this year, as we have, and in years past, we've also had a series of questions that we publicized for comment by the public, and we generally limit it to just 3 questions, but this year we had a question regarding enforcement of our traffic ordinances in the city, animal control, kind of soliciting any suggestions for any changes or improvements in that area. And then we generally have one kind of catch-all question, but anything in general that they'd like to see the police department, its services that we'd like to see them take on or help coordinate. But again, I thought we had had a good turnout, and the presentation on the building project was very well received, and is very exciting for all of us that are involved. Then we are also responsible to advise and make recommendations on matters relating to the police department. And budget being one of those things, some of the things that we have talked about this year, there's been been quite a bit of concern. Just again, we look at dollars. We try to stay away from personnel issues and that type of thing, but just how money is being spent. And there was some concern about the amount of money that we were having to spend on training officers, and we really have a significant investment in those, and each one of those men and women as we send them to the academy and to equip them, and then of course their ongoing pay and benefits and stuff. And it just seemed to us like that we were kind of continually in a training mode. Now, of course, a lot of that is attributed to the 17 additional people that we put on the payroll, but above and beyond that. So we asked Chief if he could help us understand that a little bit. And one of the things that we perceived might be, a contributing factor to that, would seem like we had an awful lot of officers that were leaving Blue Springs and going to Independence, and why that might be the case, and we did understand that there is a difference in pay and benefits, but what concerned us there, in addition to having to backfill them, and of course the training expenses there. But also, the people that we were losing had 7 years of service, so we were losing a lot of experience there as well. But we really appreciate that the council and the staff were able to come up with some salary treatment for all the city employees this year, which of course benefited the police department as well, and also the inclusion of the longevity bonus or additional increase there, recognizing them for each the 5 years of service increments and certainly hope that will go a long ways to trying to curb the need to have to train folks if we can attract, of course, the quality people that we want, and then keep them with pay and benefits, and then that incremental pay for recognizing their years of service. We had one of the meetings, Janet Black asked, most of us have been around the police department a little bit more than some of the others, and we had seen the new police vehicles. And I know there was a lot of discussion initially about whether we should buy SUVs versus just the Tauruses, the sedans. And I think part of the concern was the perception of the public if all of a sudden we had all these, but everybody kind of perceived high dollar vehicles out there on the road, and were we really spending their tax dollars wisely? And, lo and behold, I was walking out of a restaurant at lunch one day, and one of the officers happened to be there in one of the new SUVs, and we were kind of admiring it, and another gentleman followed me out and said, why are we buying all these fancy police cars? You know, why are you wasting all my money? And fortunately, through the discussions that we had in our meetings, we understood, or I did, and was in a position to explain to the officer, you know, why the SUVs were preferable, and there really wasn't that much of a cost differential between the sedan and the SUV. So Major Muntz, some of the folks on the board hadn't seen it. He made arrangements to bring one over to one of our meetings so the rest of the board could see it and could see what we were talking about as far as space and all the equipment that's stuffed in there, and then what space is left over. And of course, we got a lot of good feedback from the chief of the meetings about how the all-wheel drive vehicles performed last year and the heavy snows that we had as well. So all good input. We did have a presentation during the course of the year from a representative from CJC. Actually, his Assistant Chief Todd Farley came and gave us a presentation regarding their initiative last fall on the EMS issue and that funding. And that raised some questions amongst us, is maybe we didn't really fully understand the police department's budget nearly as well as maybe we thought we did. So in October, at the meeting that we had over at CJC Station 3, Eric and Christine offered to come and sit down with us and talk through those issues so that we had a better understanding of just how all that went together. Councilman Fowler also joined us that evening, and we were surprised by the showing of Missouri Senator Will Kraus was also that evening and sat in. But we did, by the end of the meeting, have a much better understanding of just how all that stuff fit together, and we appreciate the input and from everybody that was there that evening. We still have a few items. We try to review at least once a year the items from the original task force, and we're slowly ticking those off. There's just a very few of them left, and one of them I know that is dear to your heart, Mr. Mayor, is the motorcycle unit. We did take a really good look at that this year. Chief and Major Muntz put together some numbers for us on just exactly what it would cost to establish that motorcycle unit and to operate it. And although everybody on the board is very supportive of the idea, just from a financial standpoint, a priority standpoint, and from a money priority standpoint, it's something we felt that the timing right now is just not right for that. But it's something that we intend to continue to revisit. And if you noticed in the plans for the building expansion with the off-site location at Barrett Park, there is actually accommodation up there in that building that with the stats team is going to be located to accommodate a motorcycle unit at some future time. As far as public safety issues, the one that we really looked at, it actually started in the fall of the year before. There were a lot of articles that were in the newspapers and stuff after the 4th of July in 2012 about incidences of fires and personal and property injuries as a result of these aerial illuminaries, or what people call Chinese lanterns, and it's basically just a candle that inflates a paper balloon, and I mean they're really pretty, and they look really cool, and there've been mass releases of them at the stadium and that type of thing at some of the events. The only thing about it is those things have got to come down somewhere sometime, and in the perfect world they come down because the heat source is gone, because the candle has gone out, but it doesn't always work out that way. And they end up landing on the ground with the candle still burning, and like I say, there's been both personal and property damage as a result of that. A lot of our surrounding communities had started looking at that issues and proposed ordinances to ban them. And we thought that that was something that we really ought to look into as well. Major Muntz, having just come from Oak Grove, they had just that prior year passed an ordinance. He helped us get a copy of it, and we looked through it, and then asked the chief if he would not approach Mr. McDonald and ask him to put together a recommended ordinance, which we did, and which you all were did take a look at it. I believe it was in May, and did pass in time for last year's 4th of July. And then lastly, we are charged with providing oversight of the expenditures derived from the public safety sales tax. And of course, we look at it every month. Christine Cates provides us with numbers every month, which we look at. And then quarterly, she provides us with even more detail. She wants actually the line items, so we can go look at stuff line by line on how the money is being spent. But in addition to that, this year, in April, I believe it was, we had a presentation from Trainer and from Burns and McDonnell regarding the building project, and they wanted to talk to us about a larger scope, and then the finances that were accompanied with addressing that project on a larger scope. And after a lot of discussion, the board decided that what they were proposing was definitely needed. We've got one shot at doing this, and we want to make sure that we do it right. The funds were there from what was being raised, so that it was financially feasible, and we thought that it was also would be responsible expense of money. So the board wholeheartedly supported the change in the scope and the additional monies that went along with that. And then, of course, then quarterly, we also provide you all with an update of what has been going on, and that information ultimately finds its way onto the city's website, so that any one of our citizens can go on and they can see just exactly how the monies that we are collecting and that they were so generous to approve is being spent. And we all have been provided a copy of this, but I'll just go through. This is the way that our fourth quarter update as to where we stand on this thing. And if you'll remember, when we in our original proposal, we really had three different areas in which we told the public that this money was going to be spent on a new radio communication system, and on additional personnel, and then on facilities. And as we've kind of kept that same format as we've gone through our monthly updates and our quarterly updates, and that's the way that you will see it this evening as well. The radio communication system, I'm sure you all are aware that has been completely implemented and on time and under budget. With each one of these three areas, we did establish goals, and we had three goals associated with the radio system, which have all been, like I said, the project's been completed, and all of the goals have been met. It was done on time. It improved the coverage area. The goal was to cover levels by just 5%, and we actually got 100% coverage. It was amazing. Have helped on occasion relaying some of the new patrol cars from here over to Overland Park. They have emergency equipment put in them, or swapping equipment from one of the older vehicles to one of the newer vehicles. And it's amazing sitting out in the parking lot over in Overland Park, hearing our dispatchers over here, and it's like we were sitting out in the parking lot here. It really is amazing. And of course, interoperability was one of the big goals that we wanted to achieve, and we do have interoperability with, as we've got listed up here, KCMO, MoDOT, Independence and Independence Tactical, Prairie Township, CJC Fire Department, and Jackson County. So we really, truly do have a regional system. A lot of hard work went into that, but it sure is paying off. The second part was was personnel, and of course, we had, again, several goals associated with that. The first one was to reduce response times for emergency and non-emergency calls, and we've got some numbers that we can been able to share to show where we're at in relation to that. And as you can see, from looking at 2013 compared to 2012, there is an improvement in all three areas of priority calls. And the numbers in 2013 were impacted some negatively, I should say as well, by the heavy snows that we had last year. So we couldn't get around nearly as quickly as the officers normally could, just because of the weather. But there is some progress there. But as we have been talking, beginning to wonder whether or not the goal that we established truly was realistic, and is one of the things that we intend to look at this year. The chief and his staff have started to look at that, and some things that they could do in increasing possibly the numbers of districts, which would make it quicker for folks the officers to respond. And he's got a manpower study that they're also doing that kind of goes in with that as well. The second goal was to improve patrols in the neighborhood by 12.3%, and from the data that we've got regarding that one, that it looks like we're on target with that. But we're still looking at that, and part of the manpower study that is going on also is will address that area as well. The third goal was to increase animal control personnel availability by 25%. As we can see, that we are showing it is completed, and with the additional personnel that we have had, we have a full staff now, and increased our coverage is actually increased by 33%. So we have done a good job there. Goal 4 was to reduce the time officers spending processing prisoners in the holding area by 20%. That too is completed, and we were verifying. That one turned out to be a little bit hard to measure, but Chief did look at what percent of the bookings in the jail were being done by the officers in 2012 versus 2013. And in 2012, the officers were actually doing almost 30% of the bookings. It's 29.77%. Last year, they only did 2.7% of the bookings. So we didn't have it measured in time quite like we were. I mean, the goal is stated, but I think the effect of adding those additional DSOs has certainly proved to be worthwhile. And goal 5 was to reduce the time evidence of property is returned, auctioned, legally disposed of by 3% by increasing available pickup hours to the public by 20%. That too has been completed. We got the addition of a full-time evidence and patrol property custodian was part of the personnel that we added. Hours have been extended for pickups. Some backlogs are being reduced with property being returned more promptly. With a summary time for disposal pending the next auction. The average time for returning property to its rightful owner was 51 days in 2011, 46 days in 2012, and is down to 21 days on average in 2013. So this is a reduction of about 59% on property return time. The department has also started using an auction service called property.com to help dispose of some of the property that was in the property room, which is turning out, and they haven't really been doing that long, Chief, what, three or 4 months? And that is really seemed to be working out really well. Excuse me. And then hiring status, of course, we had 17 positions that were part of the public safety sales tax. And all 17 positions were hired during the fiscal year 2012-13, and that would included a radio system specialist, 10 sworn officers, which included the deputy chief, 7 uniform patrol officers, and 2 street crimes officers, a civilian animal control officer, 4 civilian detention service officers, and the civilian evidence and property custodian that we talked about. And I believe we still got is a DSO, I think is the only one, the PSST position right now that is open due to a resignation, but interviews to fill that position are being conducted and background checks stuff being done to take care of that one. And then last leg of the stool was facilities and equipment. I know at the last meeting you all got a presentation from Trainer and the architects on the status of the building project. But again, with the building, we had multiple goals that we established too, which in every one of them, and I'll go through them real quickly, but every one of them, I mean, it's pending because with the way the building design has been done, all of the goals that we established for the project, will be accomplished. But the goals we had was to provide detective unit office space where all the detectives can work in proximity and share data and efficiency, to provide convenient, secure, separate reporting areas where citizens can receive assistance promptly and confidentially, to meet the space needs identified in the 2011 Space Needs Study, and to increase the holding capacity of the jail by 40%. And like I say, you all got a good report on the status of that building project. When it's completed, all of those goals should be met or exceeded. They say each month, Christine, and we won't go through them, but I'll just show you examples here real quickly of what we get. Again, these are in the package of material that you all receive. Christine provides us 3 different reports each month. And this one we got one that just shows the income and expenditures for the month. We get one that shows them for the year to date, and one that finally that we look at most quickly kind of shows whether or not the money is coming in as it was projected. And we always like to see the little positive bar down there in the corner. And we got a little bit concerned last summer when we were not seeing that 102% and 124. We were seeing some 80s and 90s, and but Christine relayed through the chief, was telling us not to panic, and as it turned out, the year finished out very above what we had projected. And this is just showing here, since the fiscal year is we're just 3 months into the new one, that we're on track and with the projections so far this year. And just to kind of wrap up a little bit, looking at this year, just to remind those that are not aware, our meetings are public meetings. We meet the second Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock in the East Conference Room over at City Hall, and we welcome any visitors that would like to come and join us. And we will have again this year our public forum, which will be November the 11th this year, and we just confirmed today that will be over in the lumber yard in the new courthouse or the courtroom facility over there. And with that, I'll take
Are there any questions of Chairman Eggert? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for coming and sharing that as you normally do each year.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. Next, we have a public hearing on the amendment to the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan for fiscal years 2009 through 2012.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce one exhibit on behalf of the city, which includes City Council information form from Scott Allen, Director of Community Development, with attachments, possible CDBG sidewalk projects and CDBG project funding spreadsheet, and affidavit of publication is advertised in Blue Springs Examiner, January 4, 2014. These are all the exhibits I have to offer on behalf of the city.
Peterman, on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Good evening. Before you this evening is an amendment to our CDBG plans, our annual action plans from multiple years. What we've done, what we're doing is we're going back and all the projects that we didn't use up all of the budget for, we're then consolidating all that into this current year. That's kind of the plan. We've come under budget, and the table is in your packet, and multiple different, the crosswalks and some sidewalk projects. We came in under budget. Good job, Public Works. So we're then consolidating all of those years from 2009, 10, 11, 12, and then pooling that money to continue on with our current project, which would be the sidewalks down 10th Street from Vesper to Arnie Mize. That was the first part. The second part would be we received a reduction in our funding for 2013. And so that also needs to be taken care of and amended at this time as well. Mr. Allen has a statement about that.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. In terms of that reduction, last summer, the city was made aware that we were not spending CDBG funds in the timely fashion as HUD has dictated. I can get into the details in terms of amounts and such, but in the end, the total reduction was $50,848, which is why you see that kind of odd number reallocated into the 2013 Blue Springs Park Playground project. Was actually taken out, and then we've again backfilled that, so to speak, as Mr. Peterman noted, with these 4 years of reallocations from extra funds from previous years. We had an informal consultation, is what HUD called it, to address 4 different questions they had last September, and it was specifically related to the 10th Street project, as Mr. Peterman noted. It had been in the plan, out of the plan, back in the plan over a number of years, and due to some right-of-way and surveying, delays, we were unable to spend funds related to that project in fast enough manner for HUD's liking, and therefore we're before you this evening to modify, as Mr. Peterman noted, the previous 4 years worth of extra funds, so to speak, to make up for that difference that HUD has notified us about recently.
So we're allowed to keep 1.5 times our current grant in the bank. So if HUD gave us $100 in 1 year and $100 another year, we would only be able to hold like $150 in our pocket, basically. And since we didn't spend money, and we get such little amount of money that when we don't spend our allotted amount on a project, and this project was, I believe, budgeted for like $120,000. Well, that is a large chunk, and therefore we didn't spend it, so we started getting letters from them saying, you need to spend your money, you need to spend your money. So we're hoping that we can get that project taken care of this summer, and then by going back and getting all this extra funding that was left over, and then allocating that as well, that we'll be well on our way to being well below their threshold by June 1 and July 1.
And in addition to that, Your Honor, a lot of the reason for that is it's been since day one that we've had a lot of these challenges, because our fiscal year being October 1, we are given until June 1 to spend down that to that 1.5 times our annual allocation. But with sidewalk projects, all these capital type improvements, October to April, there's not much we can do. So as Mr. Sandy can probably attest, it's kind of, we continually chased ourselves trying to get that money spent. But as Mr. Peterman noted, I think we're back on track with what we're looking to do, specifically with this project. Again, trying to carry that over year after year really gave us a low ceiling. So if we had to carry over some of these smaller projects, it really put us over that 1.5 threshold quickly and repeatedly. So it's almost without fail every year we get a letter June 1, just because we're not, it's just because of the construction season, we're frequently behind HUD's timeline. It gets done, but it's not to their preference.
So with that,
Mr. Johnson, did you have comments you'd like to make?
Your Honor, just a couple, because I just want to make sure the council's clear on a couple of points here. We're always learning something when we're working with HUD and the federal government with regards to this particular program, and the requirements, the criteria for the administration of the program can and may slightly change each year. I'm very pleased that staff was able to go back and sort of scrub past accounts and come up with this additional money. I'm disappointed that we were not able to move quickly on the project, and that as a result of that, HUD came in and actually reduced our allocation. So that's $50,000 that we don't have available for projects that we could have had. And staff has had a number of internal conversations about how we can make certain, as we prepare the action plan each year and bring it to you, we need to be mindful of the projects that we have on that list, and we need to be certain that we can do them. If the council approves a budget, we need to be in a position to execute, whether it means we've got to acquire right-of-way to do that, whether we've got to have a potential negotiation with one landowner or multiple landowners, whether the projects, there's a whole host of variables that can go into that. As a result of this process, we will be wrapping up, in fact, our financial staff is wrapping up our year-end external audit. We will receive an audit note in our audit with regard to this particular item. And so we thought it was appropriate tonight to get it in front of you, to let you know that it's coming, to let you know that we have addressed it, and we're fine-tuning our internal processes to ensure that this sort of thing doesn't happen again, because I don't ever like to not fully utilize the funds that we have at our disposal. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to ask, is this a permanent reduction, or is this just for this fiscal year?
It is, Your Honor, and Councilman Love said, it is just for this fiscal year. So it's a one-time reduction.
I think we're all probably thinking, leave it to the federal government to say we're not spending money fast enough. But yeah, I would like to see us continue to utilize this as much as we can.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments for the record? Councilman Edmondson?
Just one thing, that though that seems like 50,000, doesn't seem like a big item in the grand scale of what our budget is, percentage-wise for what funds we get, that's a pretty big ding.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, really, if there's anything we can do to try to, I don't know, if we can adjust that to where it doesn't have to fall within our budget cycle, to where maybe we can make it more easy to get, you know, I don't know, break it out to a separate budget to where that runs with a calendar budget or however it is with HUD, so that we address it that way as opposed to having to address it on our October dates, to where we could line that up better, to where we make, so we don't fall into this trap again. I mean, I'm all for doing something to make sure we get it online where we spend the money and the time they want, instead of shortchanging ourselves, you know, by these months in the winter when we can't get something done.
we've mentioned that internally, and that's something that we're checking into, so we can change our fiscal year for our HUD funding.
I kind of figured y'all did, but figured you might want to hear from us that I think we are looking at that. Anything we can do to make it easier on you to get that done, I think we'd all be in favor of that.
Absolutely.
Any other comments? Well, believe you me, the change will have to come from us, because HUD's not changing.
So our next annual action plan cycle will start in April.
Good.
Heads up.
Any other comments from the council to enter the staff before we go to the public? Is there anyone in the audience like to speak in support of? In support of? In opposition to? Opposition to? We'll close this public hearing. We need a motion to adopt the resolution approving the amendment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. Next, we have an appeal of the Parkway Villas PRO. Mr. McDonald, would you like to lead the discussion on that one? or at least tell us what we need to do?
Well, we've got three things that are going to go on, and the first thing is the appeal of the preliminary plat denial by the Planning Commission. That is up on appeal. The developers appealed that to the City Council, and you all need to hear that matter and make a determination as to whether or not UDC's been complied with, and if it is, generally speaking, plats are approved, preliminary plats are approved. Then we have a rezoning and a recommendation of approval on the rezoning from the Planning Commission and a recommendation of denial on the PR concept plan. And it seems that in order to facilitate this, we can, after we get through with the appeal, if the preliminary plat passes, move on to the public hearings on the rezoning and the concept plan and the PRO concept plan done together. When we get through with that, in order to make sure everything comes together one way or the other, we will ask that the city first reading on the rezoning. If the rezoning passes the first reading, we would then move to the PRO, which actually becomes a part of the rezoning, and have a motion, whatever that motion is, on the PRO, and the PRO passes the first reading, go ahead and pass it on the second reading, go back to the rezoning, and we would assume that since it passed on the first reading, it would then pass on the second reading. Now, I'm not telling you what you need to do on any of these. I'm just telling you how we would proceed. If for some reason the preliminary plat didn't pass, then we would probably stop there, because the developer doesn't want to, and he can speak to this, but he doesn't want to rezone the property unless he knows that the whole thing's going through. And that's why we're splitting up in the second, the two things, the vote between going rezoning first, one reading, and then to the PRO for two readings if it passes. And I've probably completely confused you, but we can go as we go along.
Yep, it's clear as mud. Okay, what we'll do is you've kind of gotten the overview from our city attorney, so now he's going to spoon feed us step by step. Does that work? Okay, so
I'll
first
speak
step.
up if I need to.
Okay. First step, Mr. Holly.
Okay, the first step tonight is to address the appeal of the Planning Commission decision regarding the PRO preliminary plat. And by way of a little bit of background, this particular property is a 3.9 acre parcel. It's located on the northwest corner of Southeast Adams Dairy Parkway and Southeast Moreland School Road. Property was annexed into the city in 2006, and at that time it was also rezoned to a neighborhood business zoning classification. Since 2006, there has not been any applications requested of the city to do anything with the property, and the developer feels as though there has not been any significant interest from the standpoint of anyone looking to develop the property, and therefore they're coming before you and the Planning Commission with the preliminary plat rezoning and the PRO concept plan. The concept plan, without going into too much detail, but based on the preliminary plat, has 11 lots, and the proposal, excuse me, is to construct 11 maintenance-provided duplex units. The residential development of the site is proposed will also be looked at tonight with the PRO concept plan and the rezoning. Staff had recommended approval with 8 conditions, and the Planning Commission voted for 2 people. Well, I guess the motion was to approve the preliminary plat, and there were 2 people in favor and 8 in opposition, and therefore the preliminary plat did not pass. So the applicant on January 28th of 2014, submitted the letter that is in your packet requesting the appeal to the council. And if there are any questions on this portion, I'll stop here and let you address the appeal to the
Are there
preliminary.
any questions, Mr. Holly, on the appeal part?
Yes.
Councilman Corbett?
This type of situation is one that I've talked about over the years a number of times in regards to ministerial duties. Plats typically are non-discretionary approvals as long as they meet the requirements. When the Planning Commission voted so largely to deny this, did they call out any specific UDC, part of the UDC that this does not comply with?
No, they did not.
So they gave no explanation whatsoever?
Not with the preliminary plat, they did not, and I'll let our city attorney address that if he needs to.
There was some discussion about things that are not contained in our ordinances, but there was no indication of what they felt in the preliminary plat did not comply with the UDC. And staff had stated that it did comply with the UDC.
A little more. The plat as presented does not fit the in-place zoning, though, is that correct?
That is correct. The lot sizes are really geared towards a residential development as opposed to any kind of a business-related development.
Okay.
So they really follow suit with what's being proposed through the rezoning.
Is it normal to do preliminary plat presentations prior to getting the zoning in place, or is there anything wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that, and actually, we see that often where they run those kinds of applications concurrently, just to move through the process.
So, but at final plat, it would have to comply with the zoning,
Yes, as does the preliminary.
but we're
plat,
not
actually.
doing final plats
The
here.
final plat would come later, and they will also have to submit a PRO final plan that will probably run concurrently with the final plat. That's as typical with most developers.
Okay, thank you. That's all I
Thank you.
have.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess we need a motion to, if we support the appeal, we need a motion to approve the preliminary plat.
That's correct.
Is there a motion to approve the preliminary plat?
So moved.
Is there
I'll
a
second that, Your Honor.
Is there any discussion?
Well, just a quick question. You said support the appeal, so
Yeah.
we're voting to approve the plat.
Right, right.
So if we're voting to approve the plat, we vote aye.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Preliminary.
Preliminary plat, yes, thank
Preliminary,
you.
right.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The preliminary plat is approved. That takes us to item number 8, a public hearing on the rezoning of Parkway Villa PRO. Mr. Johnson.
Hey, 1 second, Your Honor.
We're going to do them both?
Yes, Mayor, why don't you do them both, but then when we
Okay.
come to the voting, we'll kind of...
We'll separate them.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do a public hearing on the rezoning of Parkway Villas PRO lots 1 through 11, and also the public hearing on Planned Residential Overlay District Concept Plan.
Your Honor, I have 2 exhibits for these 2 public hearings. The first public hearing is RZ 12-13-4228. It includes an exhibit including city council information form with attachment, staff report with attachments, affidavit of publication is advertised in Blue Springs Examiner, December 28, 2013. Application with attachments, 185-foot notification map, names, addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site, a copy of letter sent to property owners. And for public hearing, PROC-12-13-4229, we have an exhibit which includes a city council information form with attachments, staff report with attachments, site location map, staff report with attachments, affidavit of publication in Blue Springs Examiner on December 28, 2013, application with attachments, 185-foot notification map, names, addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site, and copy of letters sent to said property owners. These are all the exhibits I have to offer on behalf of these 2 public
Okay,
hearings.
Mr. Holly, on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll go through both the rezoning and the PRO. Without going through the background again, it's the same as was the preliminary plat. The comprehensive plan designates this property as neighborhood commercial. That's described as retail, commercial, service, business, and moderate-scale shopping centers adjacent to residential districts. That is consistent with the NB, or neighborhood business zoning category. And while the zoning closely matches the comprehensive plan and its development goals, it can be noted that the surrounding development pattern in this particular area is residential. I think most of you are familiar with the Parkway Estates single-family residential neighborhood, which of course surrounds this particular property on two sides, and the other two sides are fronted by streets, Moreland School Road and Southeast Adams Dairy Parkway. So a significant portion, again, is single-family residential. UDC defines two-family zoning district as intended to allow for development for conventional attached dwellings. Proposed use of the site for 11 two-unit duplexes or townhome matches the TF district, which is what is being proposed to be zoned tonight, along with the PRO, or Planned Residential Overlay District. Residential zoning is probably more closely compatible to the surrounding single-family district and a commercial zoning district, and it should be noted as well that at one point that neighborhood commercial district on the comprehensive plan was really drawn with a pretty ambiguous boundary. It was just a large oval circle around that intersection of Adams Dairy Parkway and Moreland School Road. And in the rest of that particular comprehensive plan designation, it's zoned for single-family development with the PRO, with Planned Residential Overlay. Planned residential overlays are encouraged, are intended to encourage flexible development at a quality level generally exceeding commonly found projects developed under conventional zoning. The overlay district does allow for some deviations, and with this particular request for the PRO as part of this zoning district, they are asking that two lots 3 and 7. This is lot 7, and that's lot 3. And they are asking that both of those lots have a 19-foot front yard setback in lieu of the 30 feet that's typically required in a two-family zone. And for lot 3, that would be this lot again, they are asking to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. And those reductions are really a result of the cul-de-sac bulb at the end, as well as a 25-foot landscape buffer. Well, I should rephrase that. Along Adams Dairy Parkway, there is a 25-foot landscape buffer. In addition to that buffer, they added a 25-foot no-build zone to try to put a 50% or a 50-foot buffer along Adams Dairy Parkway. That would be consistent with what was done through Parkway Estates. Staff did recommend approval of the rezoning, and the Planning Commission, in their consideration, voted 6 in favor of the rezoning and 4 in opposition. Moving to the PRO, I just want to touch on a couple things of note in the staff report that was included with your packet. The classification for these particular duplexes is 850 square feet per unit, or 1,700 square feet per duplex dwelling. That has raised some questions about, can you have, from a floor area classification standpoint, the code requires that there only be a drop of one zoning or classification category within a block, and then Staff always wrestles with this a little bit, and it's something we hope to clean up in the zoning rewrite. But the way that a block is defined in the UDC is that it is an area of land that's entirely bounded by streets. And in this particular case, the development itself is built on a cul-de-sac, and so the area that is bounded by a street, there is no jump in the classification. If you were to go to the units to the back or surrounding it in Parkway Estates, obviously that jump is higher. Oops. This too is included in your package, this building elevation, and staff did make a statement in our staff report that overall there's little or no variation in the building design, the appearance, or the exterior materials. Additional building elevations will come in and be more complete with the PRO final plan. That is typical of a PRO. They provide us with more or less conceptual drawings before they give us the actual elevations with the PRO final plan. And staff is suggesting that those elevations, when they come in, should create a little more variety and individuality for each dwelling unit. And they can do that by incorporating some additional exterior materials or other architectural features that would enhance windows, front porches, garages, and building massing and height. Landscape plan has not been submitted with the concept plan. Again, that's not unusual either. That landscape plan would be submitted then with the PRO final plan. The stormwater detention for this particular development was not included with the stormwater master plan for the entire Parkway Estates development. So they will have to take a look at that and either revise that original stormwater plan to make sure that their capacity is adequate to include this development, or provide a separate stormwater plan that deals specifically with this development. Those as well as two other conditions are included in staff's recommendation. Excuse me. Staff did recommend approval of the PRO concept plan, and the Planning Commission voted on the approval, voted 2 people in favor and 8 in opposition to that approval. So it too was not recommended for approval to the City Council. And with that, if there are any questions, I'll stand for questions. I know
Are there any questions, Mr. Hyde?
applicant here.
Council? Not, thank you. Would the developer like to come and make any comments?
Okay, thank you. I may need your help later, but
You solemnly swear testimony about to give the cross on hearing to be the truth, knowledge, and faithfulness, truth, so help you God.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for the opportunity tonight to present our applications to you. Jim's done a good job, and as has the rest of the staff, with the details of our project and providing you with quite a bit of information. So I won't go through all of that again, but I will try to hit a few highlights that I'd like to emphasize for you. The first is, with our project, it's something that I explained to the Planning Commission. It's unique for us in that we are coming in before you asking for a step down in zoning. We're normally coming in with a vacant piece of ground that's not zoned and asking for a project to be approved. The little bit of the history on this, when we first brought Parkway Estates to the city, we had a comprehensive plan, or the city had a comprehensive plan in place, as Jim mentioned, that had the neighborhood business, the commercial zoning for a big chunk of the intersection at that Adams Dairy Parkway and Moreland School Road. And because of that, when we first brought Parkway Estates to the city, we actually had 2 4-acre tracts at that intersection for neighborhood business. It wasn't something that we wanted or requested, but because the comprehensive plan had this big swath at that intersection, we had to put those on our original plan. One was the project that's before you tonight, or at least the site, and the other was directly to the east across Adams Dairy Parkway, another 4-acre tract. And somewhat of a precedent at that point in time, before the project, or as part of the approval of Parkway Estates originally, the 4-acre tract on the east side did get changed and brought back down to residential zoning. So essentially what we're asking for tonight is what's done on the east side with that 4-acre tract. The current zoning, as I mentioned, we're asking for a step down in zoning. This current zoning essentially would allow for 40,000 square foot of retail space on this 4-acre tract. And we've had it for 7 years, we've had it for sale, and we have had one company over that 7 years approach us. It was Lee Summit Physicians Group. They considered putting their office there, ultimately ended up going up on I-70 for visibility purposes. And we have also, as I explained to one of the council members today, we were approached by a gas station for wanting to put a gas station on that corner. And now that doesn't, the current zoning, the neighborhood business zoning, does not allow for the gas station. But we have told that contact that we didn't feel like that was appropriate for what was going on with the residential area. It's even more intensive use than what the neighborhood business zoning would allow. But that gives you a little bit of history of what's happened with the 4 acres in the last 7 years, and it's almost nothing has happened. So a few key points to our project. It's a maintenance provided project. So all exterior of the buildings, all the repainting, the roofs, the gutters, the lawn mowing, the landscaping is all provided by the association. So it doesn't matter who lives inside the unit, they'll all be maintained exactly the same on the outside. We have only 11 buildings on this 4-acre tract. We've left 69% of the area as open space. The ordinance requires 40%, so we feel like we've done a good job of adding extra open space, green space to the project. That, under ordinance, allows us to get a density bonus for additional units, but we are not requesting nor utilizing that density bonus. We're leaving it under the regular density for TF zoning. Finally, again, I would direct you and ask you that in any analysis you have tonight of our project, to keep in mind the fact that we are requesting a step down in zoning. We are comparing a villas, 2-family building, 11 buildings project to 40 square feet of retail commercial space. Significantly different uses, significantly less intense use in what we're proposing than what the current zoning is. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from council to Mr. Allen? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take it to the public. Is there anyone in the audience like to speak in support of? In support of? I do have 2 forms here to speak in opposition to. We have Michael Jolly. Okay, would you like to come be sworn in and speak?
Appreciate the opportunity to speak before each of you.
Yeah, would you come up to the microphone?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, there you go.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak to each of one of you. A couple years ago, I was looking around to invest in a home. Looked a few different places, Independence, Lee Summit, Blue Springs. Pretty much spent most of my life growing up here in Blue Springs. I love the schools, I love the town. I think it's very well, great police department, very safe city. As I was looking around, you know, I had some particular things I was interested in far as long-term investment. If I go and purchase a home, is the value going to grow? Am I going to be able to maintain that investment? So on and so forth. I'm just going to focus here in Blue Springs. There's a few other subdivisions I had looked in. And I saw duplexes being built, so on and so forth. Talked to a lot of realtors. They said that was a very bad sign when that happened. Stay away. I understand the developer's concern for as I've been sitting on this land for 7 years. I think a lot of that reason is that property was in foreclosure for, I'm estimating here, 3 to 4 years. There was no development going on. There was originally 9 homes that were built in it. I moved in early part of January of 2012. There was 9 homes. Today, in basically 2 years, there's been 16 additional homes built in a very tough housing situation. Last summer, let me back up a little bit, the previous summer, we had Slee Homes, took an interest in it. He's building on the other side of Adams Ferry Parkway. George Ward, this past summer, he pretty much purchased this property. You're starting to see activity growing. There's already residents that are looking, talking of maybe it's time to get out because you don't know what's coming in. Another concern that I have is that in these 16 homes that have been built, there's already been 3 plans that have been changed that did not meet the bylaws, if you will, or if I'm correct in the terminology there, for that subdivision. So all I see is things changing around in front of me, and I don't think it's good for my investment. Here again, I think that a lot of people, as myself, if this would have been on the table before, I never would have purchased. I would have looked elsewhere. Right now, there's that subdivision is 180 homes. There's 25 homes in it today. That's less than 12, that's 13%. I think if that subdivision is allowed to continue to be built, as it was designed to be built originally, somebody will come and buy that commercial property. It's not developed enough to me for a Subway or a McDonald's to go in up there. So I hope some of that's taken into consideration, that that property sat idle for 3 to 4 years.
Any questions, council? All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Councilman Fowler?
Yes, yes. Yes, one of our criteria on zoning is the effect or approval of the condition on the value of property in the vicinity. So to summarize your testimony, do you believe it's going to impact property values?
I think that it will. I've already seen it happen, and basically with another developer coming in. Don't want to just get into numbers, but far as I see the houses being built, are going and being built a lot cheaper. Across the road, and some of you may recall this, that was lowered, if you will, for as the housing sizes, so on and so forth, because, you know, now it's been split into 2 different subdivisions. So it happened across the street. Is it going to happen on my side?
I have a quick question as well. Based on Councilman Fowler's question, would you then assume that you said McDonald's or Subway, would you think a McDonald's would improve your property values if that was built there instead of this?
No, here's my bit. I think if you have a commercial property there, whether it's a McDonald's or a Subway, I have less concern with about it. It's established. I think when you start getting into the townhomes and stuff, you see a lot of turnover, and I don't think that will help my property.
Even personally maintained, professionally maintained
No,
townhome?
I don't.
Okay, well, that's...
No, I'm sorry, I hope in my tone don't...
No, I appreciate you coming to address this. I know it takes a lot, and it's nice to hear from the homeowners. From a commercial property standpoint, generally that's what you see, especially when it becomes vacant commercial property, that homeowners tend to like that a lot less than if you have a well-maintained duplex development. And so I think that's what I hear a lot more is commercial
Yeah.
property you don't really want to live next to.
I guess I'm on the other side of the fence.
Yeah,
on-
well, I
on
appreciate
turn.
that. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah. Councilman?
Can I ask you how close your property is to this property?
Actually, if you will, I don't know how to put a distance on it. I'm actually right on Shamrock, so I don't know where that is. That's actually on the opposite corner from me. It would be further south on the back end of the subdivision. If you will, I would be about in the middle of the subdivision if you looked at it on the map.
Okay. So in terms of blocks, how far are you from it?
3,
Okay,
about 3.
just trying to get a visual of it.
Sure.
Any other comments, questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you for
All
your
right, thank
testimony.
you.
Next, I have a Craig Wilcock.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear testimony about to give this case truthful, truthful,
I do. Thank you. Thank you guys for your time. Mike summed it up very well. I'm a property owner there. I've been owner since March of 2012, so about the same as Mike. I as well did research, on the various neighborhoods throughout Blue Springs, and, we knew that this wasn't a neighborhood that was going to have duplexes, and we knew that, there's nice homes, high square footage, or higher square footage homes. We bought this house as an investment, somewhere where we were going to live for years. And, as soon as we heard about it, my thought was, oh my God, we need to sell. So I called my real estate agent, and he's like, yeah, if they approve that, definitely sell it. I own some multi-family properties. One of them, a maintenance community where they do all the maintenance on the outside. I just own a single unit, but I know there's a lot of problems in the particular one that I own, and I wouldn't want to have my house near that area. It's okay for, for some families that want lesser rent and whatnot, but we really invested in this house. It's close to 5,000 square foot house with a basement, and I just don't think duplexes, 700 square foot duplexes are a good fit for the neighborhood. So that's pretty much. And as far as where I live, the top street there that arcs up, I live straight. If you extend the page up, I live straight on that street on the corner. It's probably 2.5 blocks away. So yeah, it's pretty close. We walk around through there all the time. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Mike, like I said, he summed it pretty much up. So
Any questions? Councilman Fowler?
Yes, Your Honor. To be specific and to overgeneralize your testimony, you too feel like this will impact your property values?
Yeah, I do. I really do. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have, if you guys rezone it for residential, that's no problem. Build some homes in there. It'd be a good fit to have homes, on that corner. No problem. But like Mike had said, when we first moved in there, when we first started looking, there was 5 or 6 homes that were vacant that were being sold. And we looked at each one, and every time we went to bid on one, somebody else bought it, so we moved on to the next. And I ended up with, I think, the last one that was available that was built. And since then, I mean, they're just popping up everywhere, in the neighborhood. We're up to 16 or 16 new homes. So, I mean, it's, it's building. And, on the corner there, I think they'll sell it. It's just a matter of time. So, things have changed over the last year or two, for sure. So, yeah.
I have to ask this question. Your realtor,
No, I'm sorry.
you said you had a realtor that told you if these duplexes go in there, sell.
That's what he told me. He said, because your values are going to go down.
Okay, now my question did that realtor tell you that 4 acres was zoned commercial?
Yeah, we knew it was commercial when we bought it,
When you
yeah.
bought your property, you knew it was zoned commercial?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Want to make sure he's being straight with you.
Yeah.
Councilman Coker.
Yes, Your Honor. You do know that the buildings are actually going to be 1,700 square feet.
I thought he said was 800 and
That's
700 per unit,
But
yeah.
the building itself will be, the footprint of the building actually, or the building, is 1,700 square feet.
Okay,
I just
yes,
want to
correct.
make sure you understood that.
Yes, I do. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you for coming. Thank you for your
Thanks for your
testimony.
time. Thanks.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak in opposition to? Come up and be sworn in, and then I have you fill out one of those forms. I don't have a form on me. whole
lot more to say than
Why
what...
don't you tell us who you are, since I don't have a form on you?
Oh,
It tells me who
I'm
you
sorry,
are.
okay. Ray
Your address.
Fisk, and I am a resident there. I'm a retired resident there. I hope that to be my last residence, but I'm not in favor of what they're doing at all. I think it will depreciate our property, and I only live a couple blocks from it. Matter of fact, it's right down, straight down the street from me. If he wants to build residential, why don't they do like they did on the east side? Take the 4 acres like they did over there and build houses on the 4 acres that they have now, rather than the duplexes. You know, there's restrictions in the area where there's single-family homes. The people that buy there are supposed to live there. They're not supposed to rent the house, they're not supposed to lease the house. I don't like having 11 duplexes down the street where you've got 22 different families in there that's going to be coming and going. And they haven't said whether they're going to be rental properties or not yet. And if they're rental properties, it's definitely going to have an effect on that area. So, I don't know what else to say.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there a restriction on your house to keep you from renting it?
There's a restriction in the Homes Association that says that you're not supposed to rent or lease your homes.
Okay.
And whoever owns the property is supposed to live there, a single-family home. And there's other restrictions too, you know. And when they built that subdivision there, they put restrictions in there. And that's one of the things I looked at when I moved in there. But now, all those restrictions don't mean anything if they're going to sit up there in the corner and put these little units in up there. It's totally contradicting what they're doing in the subdivision. Plus, it's the same guy that developed the subdivision. Where's his compassion for the people that are building there now? He don't care. It's all money.
I'm just trying to get a sense for, you know, what apples and oranges, you know, may
Okay.
exist there. So if you won the lottery and you moved to Florida, you couldn't rent your house out?
That's what they say, but, you know, what's the law? Who's gonna monitor it? You know?
That is in our home association.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Councilman Fowler?
Yeah, so to be clear again, you believe this will negatively impact your property values?
Most definitely.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you for your
And would
time.
you fill that out and get that back to us before you leave? Before we close the public hearing, Ms. Allen, would you like to come and comment on any of the issues raised?
Yes, thank you. Well, I appreciate the comments of the 3 residents that spoke to you. I wanted to clarify a couple of things. One is there was a mention of a foreclosure and that this property sat vacant for such a long time. This 4-acre tract has been owned by Mr. Zander since the beginning. It has not been through any foreclosure. It has been for sale, listed with a realtor, Jerry Campbell, since its inception. So there's no, it hasn't been for lack of effort that this property is not sold. Again, I am going to express what I feel like is a very clear and overwhelming consideration in what's before you tonight. I am sure that each of these residents would love to see single-family residential homes on this 4-acre tract. The reality is that's not one of the choices. The choices are between 40,000 square feet of retail space, commercial retail space, or 11 duplexes. Those are the 2 choices that are before the council tonight. In those terms, it again seems very clear and overwhelming to me as to what is a better fit for this subdivision, what would have a better chance at preserving values for existing properties in the subdivision. It's clearly 11 duplexes. Thank you.
Councilman Goldberger?
Yes, I have a question. It was brought up the homeowners association has all these restrictions. The homeowners association that would be developed, I assume there would be one.
Yes, there
Even though
absolutely
they're
will be. It will be the association that takes care of all the maintenance of the outside of the units.
And how will that marry with the existing homeowners association in the rest of that area?
We're going to incorporate the same type of restrictions against dog pens and cars parked, or inoperable vehicles, repairing vehicles in your driveways, leaving trash outside, all those same kinds of things. The deed restrictions, we put them in place originally in the subdivision, also have information in there about the building materials. We're going to be using the same type of building materials, architectural structure, character. Those things will all be in the new deed restrictions. It'll be very, very similar to what goes on for the rest of the subdivision.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Carter?
What about the owner occupancy restrictions that they're talking about?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. What I'll say to that is that we are not going to restrict the people that can live in these units to only those that buy. And I'll tell you why. As we have explained to the Planning Commission, units are designed, master bedroom on the main level, most of the living area on the main level. Many of them, there will be only one level of living. There will be others with a basement, which we can, walkout basement, which we can add a third bedroom and bathroom downstairs and a living room, or a family room rather. But with that design, our concept is who we believe will come to rent or to these units to occupy them are older people, senior people. They're smaller in size, and their living can all take place on the main level. We've looked at what the position or the situation of these seniors might be. They could be people that have been hit by the recession, they've lost their 401ks, their retirement plans, what have you. They can't afford to buy. They can only afford to rent. We're not going to artificially or arbitrarily discriminate against those people and say, no, you can't come into this unit, you can't come into this one street with these 11 duplexes and live here. You also have a whole other set of seniors who they're empty nesters. They haven't lost their 401k, but they're tired of taking care of a house. They don't want to own a house anymore. They don't want to pay a mortgage. They've got a maintenance provided community. They don't have to do anything on the outside. Guess what? If they rent, they can travel, they can do whatever they want. As I said, no mortgage, no home ownership, no headaches. Again, we're not going to discriminate against those people. There's no reason to say you can't come live in this area. And again, the fact of who's living in it will not have an effect on how anything looks on the outside. They will all be maintained exactly the same on the outside by the association. Will not be dependent upon whether someone's in there or 6 months in Florida or whatever their situation is. So no, we are not going to restrict it to owner-occupied. It's an artificial, arbitrary, and unnecessary distinction. This place is not here.
Councilman Edmondson?
You make a compelling argument. I appreciate that. And since you voiced the concern on seniors and being a senior, I appreciate that. But I take it you're also saying you're not going to restrict a 21-year-old that has the money to be able to afford this and pay it. You will still allow them in.
That is correct. And I don't see why, I know that we don't, and I don't see why the city would want to set up some arbitrary age limit on who could live on these 11 duplexes arbitrarily. It's just a form of discrimination based on age of, well, okay, if you're not over 55 or you're not over 65, it's not good enough.
Okay, just want to clarify
Right,
that.
Mr.
right.
McDonald?
Well, I didn't hear anybody on the council say anything about discriminating, so.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what, in essence, the Planning Commission looked at that issue too, and in essence, there's no requirement for age restriction in the ordinances. So if we, as part of the process, wanted to incorporate that, we certainly have that right to do it. But if we choose not to do it, then the city would have to artificially or arbitrarily, like I said, step in and push that as a requirement for approval. And I know that's not what you're saying. but that's the result of that, where that path leads.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that we should have that spelled out, that we're trying to
Right.
say that. We're not.
Right,
Don't put words in
exactly.
our mouth.
No, I know
When you
that you're
talk
not.
about the association, who manages that association? Is it owner-occupied management, or is it an independent management? And is that in the homeowner's fee, or the renter's fee? I guess I shouldn't say homeowner's, renter's fee, to cover those maintenance of those units?
The association will be run, and the members will be the owners of the buildings. Whether that's an individual that's bought the unit, or 2 units, or whether that's the owner of the building that is being rented. So you'll have 22 owners of 22 units, and those will be the 22 members of the association, and that association will be run by those members, and they will be responsible for taking care of the properties.
Okay.
And then, the dues will be paid by the owners. It won't be collected from someone who's renting. If they're renting, it'll always be from the owner, just whether it's owner occupied or it's owned by an investor and rented. It always comes from the owner.
Okay, so if I understand you right, so if, for example, if an investor came in and bought, of the 11 units, bought 3 of them, that makes him part owner of that association?
Absolutely.
Or somebody owns the whole
Right,
thing?
3 out of 22 ownership, yes.
Okay.
3 out of 22%.
That's fine, I think that takes care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we get ready to close this public hearing?
I'll have some council comments for the record, yes?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you.
Councilman Fowler, before we close the public hearing.
Yes, Your Honor. I guess to just give a survey of the audience there, is there others that feel the same way, that this will negatively impact property values, by show of hands? Okay. I
And
just
some-
want
We'll
to
make sure that some of them are couples. so.
Okay, all right. I also noted in the staff's report, I wanted to talk about this for a minute, that another one of our criteria is looking to see what's recommended by the comprehensive plan. I notice this is currently zoned as neighborhood commercial, and the comprehensive plan designates the property as neighborhood commercial. So it's already in sync with what the comprehensive plan states. So that was in the staff report. Also, within a small area of 3.9 acres, it takes 2, they noted in here that it takes 2 deviations to make this application work. So I thought that was quite a bit for 3.9 acres. That's all I had.
Which comments? Okay, any other comments? Councilman Edmonds.
Well, I would like to go on the record that I did sit on the planning commission when this was all brought up in the first place. We talked about making this a major intersection in the future of Adams Dairy Parkway, and that we thought commercial development would be good in that location. And in some ways, I do take offense of the developing of commercial and the concept that, oh, they're going to be evil commercial going into that location. From a business standpoint, I don't see that happening. Mr. Allen talked of a medical group that looked at that property, which would be a great addition to that property and really would look good out on Adams Dairy Parkway. So in some aspects, I hate to lose vital commercial property that could be used in the city somewhere down the road. I do understand and I do sympathize with the fact that it's been sitting for 7 years, but the economy has not been what it was in these 7 years. I mean, we've been in a depressed, down economy, and it's starting to come back. Therefore, that's why I feel that, I hate to lose that commercial area, because once it's gone, we don't have it, and that's a future major intersection, I think, right over there, Moreland School Road and Adams Dairy Parkway. So I hate to see that happen.
And you realize you've already lost across the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your Honor, one more point that you say it's been idle for 7 years, the neighborhood commercial. In reality, the residential portion of those have basically sat idle. There is some development, but not nearly enough in 7 years.
Okay, getting ready to close this public. Councilman Culpepper.
The property, I'm sorry, the property that is on the southwest corner, is that county?
It's vacant. Is it?
All right, thank you.
That it? Well, you've already spoken,
I just asked.
and you're on the record, so.
In all due respect, you gave the applicant an extra time.
Well, we bring the applicant up to clarify any points that were made. That's why we bring the applicant back up, and that's the tradition that we've always done, to bring them back up to clarify any points. Is it, well, you've been sworn in, so you tell me what you want to say, and then I'm going to close this public hearing.
And hopefully there was, I think, confusing by partial foreclosure there. Yeah, I'd just like to take a moment for us, clear up my bit as far as the foreclosure. I wasn't speaking of the corner back on Moreland School Road. It was Parkway Estates subdivision that's been in foreclosure. So.
Okay, you just want to clarify that.
I just want to clarify that.
Okay, that's great.
Michael, Charlie, J-O-L-L-E-Y.
Okay, we're getting ready to close this public hearing. Going once, going twice. We closed it. Okay, Mr. McDonald, instruct us.
Based on Mr. Allen's request and the request of the city, my request also, so we come through this in decent fashion, either way it comes through. I assume, Mr. Allen, you want us to go ahead and read first the rezoning ordinance, read it one time, vote on it, put it aside. If it passes, you want to go ahead over to the PRO. If it doesn't pass the first reading, do you want to withdraw the rezoning request and the PRO?
At least continue it right now.
Over to,
Withdraw, yeah, that.
well, you want to,
If the rezoning doesn't get approved, then yes, withdraw. If the first reading doesn't pass on the rezoning, then yes, please withdraw.
okay, so,
Withdraw everything.
okay. So Mayor, I guess what we should have is somebody introduce
The rezoning.
the rezoning bill
4298.
and read it one time and see what the result is, and you might consider roll calling it on the first reading, just to make sure.
All right. Anybody like to introduce it?
I'll introduce it.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4298, an ordinance rezoning property from neighborhood business NB to a two-family planned residential overlay district TF-PRO.
Move to approve the ordinance on the first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we need any discussion? No. Councilman Fowler.
Yes, Your Honor. I guess relative to the review criteria for rezoning, property values can come into this decision in combination with the comprehensive plan. Currently, neighborhood commercial is in the comprehensive plan. That's what it is now. It's consistent with it, and I've got a lot of residents out there with testimony that's going to impact their property values. So I'll not be able to support this rezoning request.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
No.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
No.
Councilman Culpepper?
No.
Councilman Cobell?
No.
Is it a 3-3?
Fails 4-2.
4-2, no.
Is it 4-2?
It fails.
No.
Yes.
Do you want to withdraw the,
No.
No, it's 4-2.
It's
You're
4-2.
right.
It's 4-2.
It's 4-2. The motion fails
Okay.
on the first reading.
Yes, withdraw.
okay, Mr. Allen wants to withdraw the second voting and also the PRO.
Okay.
And of
Withdraw.
course, the preliminary plat can't go forward because the zoning's not right.
All righty. Okay, so that moves us down to number 12. Introduction and reading of Bill 4300.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
All right.
First reading of Bill Number 4300, an ordinance amending Section 605100 to add the requirement that a contractor in the construction industry submit evidence of workers' compensation coverage or exemption from the need for said coverage when obtaining a business occupation license and amending Section 500.130 to clarify compliance with said requirement.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Second reading of Bill Number 4300, an ordinance amending Section 605.100 to add the requirement that a contractor in the construction industry submit evidence of workers' compensation coverage or exemption from the need for said coverage when obtaining a business occupation license and amending Section 500.130 to clarify compliance with said requirement.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Cordell?
Aye.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Carried unanimously, giving an ordinance 4475.
Okay, that brings us to mayoral announcements. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to let you lead off with the press release.
Yes, Your Honor, this afternoon at approximately 4:30, the city, in conjunction with several other communities and cities and now school districts across the metropolitan area, announced that City Hall and, not that they're not essential, but we call them, they're the non-public safety related services, we will be closed tomorrow. And in fact, you may recall that this occurred a couple of times last year during the month of February. February seems to be a good month for us here in the Midwest. So we are anticipating, based upon a lot of data that we are receiving from the National Weather Service, and perhaps we'd like to, if you want more information, Chris Sandy, our Public Works Director, can chime in, but we are anticipating that sometime in the early morning hours, sometime between 6 a.m. and perhaps 10 a.m., the storm will begin to move through the metropolitan area. So we will be closed, and but we will have all police and public safety services available. We're glad we have SUVs that allow us to get from point A to point B in the community. Thank you, Tom, and others who supported that. We will also have our public works staff, of course, are prepared in the event that we do have a major snow event, and we have our also park staff that are on call to assist us with our cleanup effort as well. So I just wanted to make you aware, you had that press release, and so if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be out in my Tahoe personally going around, so if you need anything, let me know.
In case the Tahoe gets stuck, I've got a big Dodge Ram, I got big rims. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Two other announcements before we go to mayoral thoughts to pundit. City offices are also closed on Monday, February 17th for President's Day, which means the city council meeting will be Tuesday, February 18th here at this building. If you realize that we only have 3 more meetings at this building before we move to Vesper Hall, for them to be able to start construction and redevelopment of this facility, which I'm looking forward to the completion of. I think it's exciting. You know, in the month of February is Black History Month, and each February we talk about some of the freedom and civil rights leaders, and I know at our church we have a program on February 19th, which means I'll be at I won't have to be at the council meeting. Just the next night. We're there going to have some of the distinguished people that have helped make this country what it is. I'm choosing one of them, Sojourner Truth. And most of you, I'm sure, have heard of Sojourner Truth. She was a slave, abolitionist, and a women's rights activist. And she spoke at a women's conference. Now, she was born in 1797 and died in 1883, which means a span of 86 years. But she spoke at a women's conference, and it's also part of a book. And it's called Ain't I a Woman? Ain't I a Woman? And an excerpt from that is, that man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted up over ditches, and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into a carriage or over mud puddles or gives me my best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into the barns and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children, and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? Very profound. And so she was one of the people that lived during those time periods that gave of herself and still lived to be 86 years, which is commendable. That concludes my thoughts to ponder, which brings me to visitors. And I do have a visitor's appearance form from Jeff Witherspoon. And Jeff wants to talk about Woods Chapel and the I-70 interchange.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I have a quick question. And if you'll allow me to put this down here, I have a little visual for you as well. My question is, on Woods Chapel, which runs north and south, if you notice on the south part of Woods Chapel going north, where it intersects with the eastbound of I-70, there is a no right turn on red sign. When you are going to the westbound of I-70, there is none. Now, both sections are feeding in the same area. They're not crossing lanes of traffic, so why do we have a no right turn on red sign in one area and none on the other?
I defer to Mr. Sandy.
Mr. Witherspoon, I believe if you notice as you head up the hill that towards the interchange, you're actually going uphill, and when you stop to make that right turn to go east on I-70, when you look across to see the traffic coming across the bridge, there's actually a wall that impedes your vision of the vehicles coming towards you. And so that was, the sight distance is the issue as to why. On that side, we have a no right turn on red. However, on the other side, since the pedestrian wall isn't there and the grade doesn't change, it's flat. That's why it's required on the south side of the interchange, but not on the north side.
Thank you.
All right. We all learned something. Thank you for bringing it up.
Had that same question.
All right. We do have an executive session. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask for a motion to go into executive session, and we'll do a roll call. Then we'll take about a 2 or 3 minute break to allow our visitors to be excused, and then we will go into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
Motion to move?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quibell?
Aye.
Councilman Levinson?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
All right, we will take a pause and then go into executive session.
Take a pause.